Welcome to VFX with Natron. I've been having a really weird week. So anyway, I don't want to get into too much of it, but things have been just flaking out and messing up, and we're running a little late because things were screwing up. Things didn't work. I have no idea. Just whenever I try to do a live stream, it just likes to do this. Anyhow, today we're looking at doing text morphing inside of Natron. And we're not going to do morphing, just so everybody is very aware, this isn't morphing as in you pull a point and make a point move exactly where you want. This is sort of an in-control morph. It's a simple morph, because we can't really do point by point without distortion cages or something more advanced, which we don't currently have without add-ons. There are add-ons you can buy, third-party commercial programs or plugins, I should say, that you can add on to this that will do that. Anyhow, with no further ado, let's get into Natron. Alright, so I seem to be having already things are acting up. Last week we had, as you know, we had a camera die, and I had a problem with the web with OBS losing track of my new camera feed, so I've switched over to a new program, but now I'm getting a new error that I didn't get before in all my previous tests. Anyhow, I'm gonna just try and focus on this, but I'm going to every now and then have to click away to fix something. I apologize because shouldn't have to do this, but anyway, I can't see what's going on without this. So, all right. So we're in Natron. Where first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our text node. Can't do morph without text without text. And we're going to keep this very simple. We're going to, in order to do this text morph, what we have to do is we have to use actually two text nodes. We have to have a source text node and a target text node, and we're going to alternate back and forth between the two. So one is displaying text, the other one's not going to be is going to be updating and getting ready to display its text. So we might as well just clone this if we're going to do this. Is that a good idea? Yeah, that's fine. With everything but one thing is going to be fine. All right, so we're going to clone this. And this will be our second one. And for our clone, we're going to disable, we're going to unlink the text field because we want it to have a different, information. All right, so what are we going to do? First, we need to give it some text. We'll start off with Natron. We'll in caps because, well, it works better. We'll make it center interact. And for now, we're not going to focus on doing additional text. If you want to do additional text, there's multiple ways. If we do it like I did in the demo, I used a script to dictate where, or an expression, excuse me, to dictate where a word starts, and I'll show how to do that in a little bit. For the second word, we're going to do nation. There we go. All right, so we're going to switch from this text to that text, and we're going to make it a bit bigger too, because this isn't big enough, and we've got to be in the right one. So 200 should be more than enough. We'll keep with the default font. We'll make it nice and bold, extra heavy. That ought to work nice. So this is, we're going to cheat this. So what? It's easy, actually. It's really simple. It's a lot simpler than one might think. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in a transform. All right, we're going to put in a transform. And we're going to need a unique transform for each. So I'm going to just, for now, we're just going to focus on the one. This is going to be used for testing we have to scale these things so that the two match up. We'll get into that after we've set up the basic hierarchy. Then we need to, just double checking something. Oh yes, we need to, one of the other problems we have is we don't want the background to be alpha by default. Because we're going to be, well, it's hard to explain. Trying to think of the best way of describing this. I want to just make sure, yes. Let's put in a shuffle node. In the shuffle node, all the shuffle node's going to be doing is we're going to, again, be setting the alpha channel out to 1. So if we go back to up here and go to our alpha channel, we can see that we have, if we're on our transform node or higher, or earlier, we have our text. But if we go to a shuffle node, we have white. And that's because we want to keep everything morphing linearly. We want to be able to morph between any type of text and so forth. And we don't want alpha channels to interfere. We'll be rebuilding our alpha channel afterwards. So we're connecting here, go back off of our alpha channel. Now what we need is we're going to need a switch node. And the switch node is going to be used to transfer between the two different nodes or the two different pieces of text after a certain point is hit. Right. So what we're going to do here, let me just think about this. We want to do a merge node, excuse me. Not a switch. We don't want to do the switch. Switch comes after the merge node. We want to do a merge node. We're going to set the merge node to max, from over to max. The reason we're setting it to max is because we never want this to exceed 1 or to drop below 0. We want our text to stay consistent. So our brightest points, no matter what happens, are going to stay at a maximum of the value of 1. If it's more than 1, we can run into funky things. And we can actually use the funkiness if we want to, and for other things. With that said, I think we have the fundamental structure for what we're going to want for our second bit. So we're going to clone this. So we're going to go OK here, create the clones of that, and we are going to pull these down here. And we're going to make we're just going to duplicate our transform node. All right. So we put our transform node here for text2, and we're going to pipe that into, I think I want to make sure, yeah, we want it into B. Yes, B. Yep, B. There. And actually this should be connected to the shuffle node, and likewise this A should be connected to that shuffle node, so they're going back and forth. So what this one's going to do, I'll try and describe this at this point. We're gonna just drop this down to one thing at this point, one property. So when we fade to 0, we have just our first word. When we fade up to 1, we have both words overlapping. All right? And by overlapping the words, what we wind up with is we're creating a situation where the two can blend together. All right? And for the second word, we're starting off with both words blended together, and then we fade out to the second word. All right? So we need to create a transition point between these two. Once this has hit 1, this word has hit its top or most blurred. I've given away a hint. All right, we're going to put a switch in. This is going to make more sense once we do a couple more things. We're going to put a switch in here. And the switch for input 0 is connected to our first word or first set of words. And input 1 is going to be our second set of words. So if we switch between, let's just, for the time being, set both of these to 0. And they're actually both, oh, that's something we do have to do. On this merge node, just think about it. No, we don't have to do that. All right, they both can be. So they all get to be driven off of one animation. I'm just remembering this as I built it. So the first word is Natron. The second word is going to be nation. And we're going to just switch back and forth between word set 1 and word set 2. All right? So, what we now need to do is we have to create the fade. So, we're going to set up this so that we're going to do it in increments of 24. I always work at 24 frames a second. So, we're starting off with frame 0. We're going to go ahead 24 frames. And we're going to make our first key point for this, and we're going to set this, set a key on this at 0. Then we're going to go up to, we're going to go ahead 24 frames. We're going to set this to 1. We're going to go ahead 24 frames, and we're going to set this back down to 0. Whoops, to 0. We're going to go ahead 24 frames, and we're going to again hit this back to 0 again. And then this is so that what we're going to do, we're going to do one more set of words after this. So we'll go another 24 frames. We're going to go ahead up to 1, 24 frames, and back down to 0. All right, we're setting up the animation. This is the animation for the merge, or for merge 1, which is also the clone of merge 1. So both animations, we'll watch it, what's going to happen here. It's going to fade up to the combination and then fade to the second word, then fade up to the combination and fade back to the first word. All right? So that's what the first bit's going to be. All right? Then what we need to do is we also need to look at these two words as they look to one another. We need to compare them. So up here, I'm going to actually put another, I'm going to put a merge node up here, another merge node, and I'm going to connect it to the two. And just for our own sake, right now, I'm going to change the font colors to, from white to, the first one is, we're going to set it to red. And I'm going to break the second one and change its font color. Let's unlink those from it. We're going to set that to, we'll set it to green. All right. So if we look at font 1, I just want to make sure this is, why is this not? Oh, there we go. That was weird. It took a second to update. Anyway, all right, so text 1 is red, text 2 is green. If we go over here, we're looking at the two of them. We're going to set this merge node. The reason that we have it set up this way and we're looking at the transforms is because we're also going to be, actually, we do want to bring up we're going to want two properties here. And the reason is we want to be able to see the keyframes from our merge node that's going across. All right. What we're going to do here is we're going to shrink the two words so that they match up side by side. Okay. The reason is that when we transition from one word to another, we have to do this for every word set. Doesn't matter how long it is. You start off, what you do is you start off with your first word. And there's a dog barking outside. Oh, yes, and I have my air conditioner running. I hope it's not causing too much background noise. I hope I'm audible. Anyway, so Natron being red is our first word. So at the first keyframe, we want to keep Natron. Why is this not? This is really annoying. It's not moving. There we go. All right. Now it's... All right. There we go. All right. At frame 25. We have a mix of 0. What we're going to do up here, we're going to open up our transform node. And we're going to be just adjusting the X value of the word. Okay. And this will make sense. Okay. We're going to set this, we're going to set a key just to this to the X value, all right? And we're going to keep it at 1, okay? Because this is our first word. We're on a first transform. So it's got an X of 1. And then when we get to, we're going to go ahead 2 keyframes, okay? So we have the point, we get to 1 keyframe, takes us ahead to frame 49. Another keyframe takes us up to keyframe 73, all right? At keyframe 73, we are going to make the red text match the green text in width. So I'm going to go over here. By the way, this is kind of annoying. You'll notice that the scale here has remerged from double, even though I told it to split. It's remerged into one thing. Make sure you click it and get just the X. You do not want to scale your Y value unless your morph is happening with a font that's bigger than it is. All right? You always want to try and get it to match. So at the end of this transition, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be bringing this Natron down so that matches roughly the size. That's approximately the same size right there. All right? It's close enough. All right? This will keep the 2 words size-wise approximately the same. So when we're morphing between the 2 words, the letters that are close to one another will automatically blend together. Letters that are not will merge with the words around them. All right? So likewise, what we have to do now is go back to, first we want to go back up to text 1, or excuse me, not text 1, excuse me, merge 1. We want to pull up merge 1 so we still keep the keyframes. And we want to take the second transform node, all right? And we want to click on that. And we want to click on that because we're going to do the opposite. We want to get, for this one, this is the green text. We're going to be setting this text. We need to first of all break it up. And at the last frame, we want to have this as a scale of 1, all right? And the reason that we're keeping it a scale of 1 here is that we want to, this is its end. It's ending at its natural size. It starts off where basically with the first word, what we're doing is we're distorting it as it gets closer to the second word. And with the second word, we're going to distort it, start it off distorted and get it to transform to its natural state. When it becomes visible. So right now we're at the point where it's going to become visible. All right. So we have it at a scale of 1. If we go back 2 keyframes, 1, 2, that's when these are reversed. So for right now, this node here is we're only using to help us. This isn't actually going to be used in our actual graph. So what I'm going to do right now is change this from over, I think it's to a top. Which, that's fine. It's close enough. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to just set it to, let's try difference instead. Yeah, the difference. That way we can see the 2 a little bit better. They both blend. All right. So, all right, we got to go back, select our merge 1, then our transform 1_2. All right, so we have the keyframes. We're back at frame 25. Here, we want to make sure transform 1_2, which is our second transform. We split this, and we're going to scale this in its X direction until it matches the green. This is the red. We're trying to make it... Oh, excuse me. Wait a minute. Oh. Excuse me. This is yeah, this is the green. We're trying to make it match the red. So we pull it out. It gets a little confusing when you're looking at it like this. So we scale it out just a little bit. Now, remember, this is the key thing to understand about this is that if your text is thinner, you still want to do it. It doesn't matter how big your word is. If this word was only 3 letters, I'd still want to make it as wide as the word it's starting from, because we're morphing from one set of text to the other. So they need to be almost identical all the way through the animation. All right. So when we look at this, if we watch this animation, we can see that they're shrinking pretty much uniformly the whole way through. All right. From one set to the other. And we're not worried about anything more than that. All right. We'll worry about easing after it's all done. So now that we've got that, we can go back to our original thing. And you know what we're going to do here? We're going to take our shuffle node, and we're going to use our shuffle node to turn our nodes back into single colors. That way we can look at our different, keep this different for difference key, or excuse me, this difference compare for verifying our scales. All right, so we know which one's which. Here, what we're going to do, this one was red. So if we pull this up, that means that our shuffle node, what we want to do is set it so that everything, our output here, is just the red channel. All right, we're going to replace it, every one of the channels, to red, except for the alpha, which is 1. All right, then for this one, obviously, because we just did that, that's going to cause a problem over here. Truthfully, we probably, all right, we're going to have to disconnect this, unlink, and unlink these. We probably should have just, instead of cloning it, we should have copied it and made it its own unique thing. Whatever. We're going to set this so that it is the green input, okay? Because this is this column, all right? This word's supposed to be green. If I'm waiting for Natron isn't caught up with me. Why are you not? Oh, wait a minute. I'm at the wrong one. There we go. Hold on. I think yeah. All right. Yeah. This is our red one. All right. Excuse me. Hold on. Yeah. This is our red one. Oh, no. This is... Ugh, I'm a silly person. All right. The problem is that I had already switched it from... it had been red. So there was nothing there. It defaulted to... It would have been red all the way across. So it would have been black. What we did is by switching it to green, it updated. We delinked it. Don't worry. What we want to do is make sure that these are all set to green. All right. So our first one... This one... All right. That's weird. Oops, no, it isn't weird. There we go. All right, so this one's red at the transform. Then we use the shuffle node to turn it back to white, okay? Then, whereas this word over here is green, okay? Red word, green word. Turn the red word to white, green word to white, all right? That way, down here, both words line up, all right? And what this is going to do is when we play this, what we're going to see is that one word fades into the other word, and there's a slow transition over time between the two. All right? This is where the magic starts to happen. All right? This is the fundamentals of it. Again, this is just used for aligning our words. This is where the words are actually transitioning. What we're going to do is we're going to, down here, we're going to put in a blur node, all right? And we, again, need to see our merge node here to get our keyframes. So we're going to go back to our first keyframe here. We're going to set our blur to a size of 0, all right? So I hit it, set key, all dimensions. And we do want to key this on both the X and the Y for the blur. And then when we get to the next keyframe here, frame 49, which is both of them, we want to set our blur to approximately, this is my opinion, you can play with this, it's going to come down to your font. I found that setting it to about half of the actual font size. So if our font was 200, our font, if we look at our font size back here, it's a font size of 200. So here we want to set our size to 100, and it makes it this blurry mess. All right, and we may adjust this later. And you're saying to yourself, well, that doesn't look like much of a morph, but it's doing it to both of them. All right. So if we go here and we blur, we see here, boom, blur, it's Natron. And you'll notice at this point, it's blurring from Natron. Oh, wait a minute, we haven't finished our blur. Whoops, we got to go back. We have to finish up our last bit of our animation. Let's go back here to our merge to get our keyframes up. This holds our master keyframes. We'll go back to our blur. We'll go back to the third keyframe. So keyframe 1 was at 25. Keyframe 2 is at 49. Keyframe 3 is at 73. So at frame 73, we're going to set our blur size back down to 0. And what we see right now is that if we play through this, we blur up to the Natron up, but then it blurs right back down to Natron. And we don't want that to actually happen. That's what this switch is for. All right. So we'll go back to our second keyframe, which is where they're blurred. Okay. They're both blurred. And this is where the reason that it's currently staying there is because at this point in time, the blur is we're showing the switch is only showing this merge node. Okay. We want it to, when this is fully blurred, switch over to this merge node. Okay. Because they're both basically doing the same thing. All right. They both match identically. So here we're going to, for this merge node, we're going to open up the switch and we're going to say at this keyframe, we're going to set a key to keep it at 0. And then one frame after it, we're going to move one frame ahead and we're going to switch this to 1. All right. And what that's going to do is when we rewind our animation, it's going to blur out to as Natron, and when it blurs back in, it's Nation. All right. And so there is the fundamental principle of how we're going to get our morph. All right. And you're saying to yourself, but it's still not a morph. It's still not morphing. Aha. This is where we're going to do something very clever using the clamp node. We're going to put in a clamp. Whoops. Clamp node. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to just set it so that, well, we're going to first of all set this so that the minimum is 0.5 and the maximum is also 0.5. All right, which you say, well, all that did is make it gray. But it did. It did, but what we can do is we can tell it that we want the minimum to go back, get remapped back to black, and the maximum to get remapped back to white. So now what we've done is we've taken the center of our blur where it blurs, and we've combined the two. And what we wind up with is a morph between the two. And there is our fundamental morph. The clamp node creates the morph itself. The problem we'll notice is that when we zoom in on this, this is not anti-aliased. So because it's not anti-aliased, what we need to do is put another node on there. So we have to go down here and we pull up the LS FXAA, put that on here, and lo and behold, if we view this at 100% size, we have a nicely anti-aliased. Let's just make sure so that we can see it. Before it's jaggedy, and it might not show up. That might not show up. We're going to actually zoom into, we'll zoom into 400% so we can see it. So before we can see, actually we're going to go in even further. We're going to go into 800%. Here we go. We can really see those jaggities on the end. Before we have all these jaggities right here. And then after the anti-aliasing, we have a nice soft-edged font. So when we go back in, we wind up with a nice looking transition. And that gets us through part 1. That is how we get from the first word to the second word. All right? But you say, oh, well, that's just too simple. We haven't done anything, and there's also another problem. It's not colored. We don't have any color. We want to see color for some other thing, and this is only working with this font. Well, as I said earlier, the key to this is that you have to scale it relative. You have to keep this pushing in and out with these transform nodes, based off of the each type of font. It's going to change from font to font. It's a relatively easy thing. So how do we make it so that we can do more? Let's get another transition in here. We've done one. Let's do another one. All right. Well, fortunately, I believe I already set up this. I did. Bum, 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 because we was smart and sort of smart. Actually, we didn't do it quite far enough, it looks like. Did we do it far enough? Let's see. 3. No. Oh, yes, we did. All right. So we're going to do 2 transitions. So we're going to go from Natron over to we did Natron to Nation here. And then what we, which we're not seeing it because obviously we're not on there. Here we're at Natron, we go to the blurred, then we're Nation. Then we get here, we go blurred, and then we're back, it's still on Nation. Well, that's because we need to reverse the process we just did. So what we have to do here, let's go back. And we're going to just say here, all right, well, we started here, we already have our mix here. I think we set it. We already set this. What we need to do is go over here, go to our thing. We're going to start off this time our green, which is already set. Oh, we need to first update our words. All right. So let's get back here. Actually, let's get down to no, we're going to go up to our where it says Natron. This is our second word. All right. We want somewhere after 74, frame 74, we want to, or excuse me, after frame 73, we want to switch this from the word Natron to its next word. And so that means we need to put in an expression. So what we're going to do here is just simply set an expression. We're going to say, first of all, we're going to create an expression that says out equals quote, and then we're going to hit return, and obviously it's going to throw an error that it's a multi-line, so we get multi-line, and then we're going to say if frame is less than 74, okay? And I'm doing this very simply. We want to keep it, I just want to make sure that this is, I want to make sure what I'm doing. Right, hold on. Is this going to work? We're going to do it. We're going to be doing this poor code man way. We're going to say if frame is less than 74, colon out equals Natron. In quote. And then we're going to say yeah, else. All right, yes, if it's less than 74, it's 74, it's going to do that. If it's less than, we're going to say else if LF colon, or no, LF frame, that's what we want, is less than, we need to figure out our, oh no, we're just going to say else for right now. We're not going to worry. If you wanted to do this, you'd use an LF and you'd set it to the thing. We're going to just say else colon, else colon, and then we're going to say out equals, and then our second thing. All right, what are we going to say? It's going to say Natron Nation rocks. We'll say rocks. All right, and then we're going to say we need to return this, the result of this. So now we got to put in RET equals quote, or equals, excuse me, out. All right, and we're going to keep this, and we're going to copy this for our next one. But we're going to do it different. So let's watch what happens there. Let's make sure this works. It's going along, and then at frame 74, it changes to rocks. All right, which is perfectly great. Or at least it seems to be perfectly great. Yeah, that's fine. I thought it stopped for a second, so it made me worry. All right, so now we need to figure out our second animation point, which we go back to our merge node, and we go to our last frame, which was frame 145. So for our text 1_2, which is our second text node, we're going to set up a, let's see, we want to have it change. Do we even need to change it? Actually, we don't even need to change this one, but if we wanted to, we could have it change at this same point. We'd do the same script here. We'll do the same script anyhow, but we're not going to actually, set expression. We're going to put in the same script, but the difference is that our frame would be at 146 because, all right, so instead of here, would say as long as it's less than 146, we would say that it's going to be nation, and then oops, not nation with lowercase, it's not even nation rocks, and then it's hard. All right, there we go. So and after 146, let me make sure that's going to work. Is that right? Is that where we'd want it? Nation, it's going to transform. It's going to be the second thing. Yes, that's exactly where we want it because it's going to be the nation rocks. Yes, this is going to be the fourth word, which would happen. All right, yeah. Just got to do the math, make sure you're doing it to the right frame. All right, so let's get back into the area where this is, before this all happens. We want to go back. For some reason, Natron is slowing down. Let's get to the point. All right, so here we have rocks and Natron. All right, so we now need to, of course, go back. We need to go to our first frame. And we need to look at, obviously, nation. Whoops, we need to, let's go here. All right, first of all, bring up our keyframes for merge one. This is important to keep up so that we can see the keyframes. And then we want to go to our transform. We want to set our scale for nation or Natron to actually, wait, no. We don't want to scale this one. We want to, well, actually, we'll just set a key here. We'll set our key for this one. It's set to 1. We actually don't want that. We want to do the other one. So we double click our merge node, go back up to this text node. This is the one because it's the one that's deformed already. We're going to set a key. It's tricky stuff. All right, now we got to scale this up because it's the one that's pre-scaled. That means it's the one that was hidden. We're going to scale this up till it matches the other one or is bigger. Let's get it up there. There we go. It matches, so they match. And then we want to go 2 frames ahead so that we're at 145. This is rocks. Rocks is now going to be the one that's in focus, or it's going to be morphed to 2, so it's going to have a value of 1. So it's going to be its actual size. And then we got to go back to the other transform node. And we're going to adjust it so that it is scaled up or down. In this case, it's down. So we're going to scale it down to match rocks. Uh-oh, I accidentally scaled it. I'm going to remove this key. Won't let me remove the key. All right, let's set this to 1 for Y. And here we go. All right, just make sure you, again, shift it back. It's really annoying that it does that even though you only have one attribute changed. All right, so let's get this closer to accurate. There we go. That's close enough. So there we go. Now it's correctly scaled. So here we go. If we scrub through this, we should see that it scales properly as we go back and forth between the 2 words. All right, there we go. So we're done with that. So now we want to go back to our switch. Actually, we want to go to our blur. And, or, all right. Actually, we want to pull up our merge to get our keyframes up. Remember, we've got to have that merge node up for the things, or for our keyframes. So at 97, we're at 97, and now we want to bring up our blur. So we have our blur, our merge to keep up our keyframes here, and our blur. We're going to set our size for our blur to back to 0. Just put it a keyframe here. But all I'm doing is nudging up and nudging down with my middle mouse button. Going to the next keyframe, setting the blur to 1. Okay. Which for some reason seems to be taking a sweet old time. I don't know why. Well, whatever. Hello, Natron. Why are you not showing me a blur? Something weird is going on here. Let me make sure. Do we have... Yeah, everything should be good. Let me make sure I'm on my correct keyframe. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's wrong. Let me make sure something here. 1, 2, 3. All right. Here, blurred. Here. Here. Here it should be blurred. So here it should be 1. But it's not blurring for some reason. Why is that not blurring? Pardon me, somebody is messing around outside my door, even though they shouldn't be. This is weird. Natron is not updating correctly here. We should be. Let me make sure. Oh! I'm an idiot. Oh, I see what I did wrong. We're not doing it. I'm upping it to 1. Not 1. It's 100. Half our font size. Oh, there we go. That's why we're not getting to the size. All right. Then we go to our next frame. And, of course, bring this back down to 0. Oh, yeah. Helps if I do it right. All right. So we've got it there. All right, so it zooms up, it goes up to blurred and back, but it's not switching back to our other word. It's not switching to rocks at this point. It's staying at Natron. So what that means is at 121, we've got to go up over to our switch, and we want to key it at 1, and then at the next frame, we want to switch it back to 0. All right, and that should make it so that when we scrub through this, let's make sure when it reveals, it should come back to rocks. All right, it's doing the blur correctly there. And so there we go. That's basically the animation at this point. I'm trying to think. We'll do we said we were going to do hardcore as well. Might as well do the hardcore. What time is it? No, we've run past the time. All right, we're not going to worry about it. What we're going to do is just back it off. We can see it to... This is basically the entire animation. We're just going to watch it out, and this is the entire thing. And I will show you exactly how you do your text treatment afterwards. And it's, of course, it's going to switch to hardcore all of a sudden. Or it may. Actually, it won't. No, it won't, because we didn't switch the switch back. So there we go. We can see the actual morphing happening. All right. So that's the morph. Now, let me pull up one of the final projects so we can... let me reload this project. Discard the difference. I want to make sure it's correct. We'll head it up over here on the side. And I'm going to just go over here and whoop, whoa, boom. And there we go. All right. Looks a little weird over here. All right. So I'm just going to show here after the FXAA, all I did is I put the color treatment afterwards. So you can see Over here, I just have a ramp that goes from a background with that gradiates to another color, and then it gets multiplied over our thing, and then the actual movement to move it in space is done with a card 3D, which can be whatever you want. And then I used a bilateral GL. Oh yes, I wanted to just I didn't. Well, so one of the things about this is that I did motion blur, and I wanted to cheat on my motion blur. So I just want to bring up the motion blur for a second. Let's try and get this. It's not really showing. You know what? We'll talk the motion blur. I have the motion blur trick. I will talk about that in another thing. This has already run long enough. What we're going to do for right now is I also want to show you the other one, just to show you the how the text treatment on this particular one. What I did is I took the output after the clamp node, and I ran it through because I wanted to do do an emboss on it. I basically did my entire emboss treatment over here, so that I wound up with the emboss treatment. Then I ran it through my FXAA to get to get my actual anti-aliasing on both nodes, and then I did the color treatment afterwards. So that's how I got both, just so you're aware of how I got both. And if I wanted to keep the alpha channel separate, if it didn't pass through automatically, I would have pulled it around in another way. All right, so that pretty much concludes it. And just so you all can see exactly what that looks like, let's take a look at it one more time. And there you have it. You all have a great Natron day. Keep on Natroning.